This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are proud to bring you Justice Unfiltered. Real conversations with real people from every side of the justice system. From the latest in law and order to the voices of those impacted, changed, and working to make a difference. This is where truth meets transformation. Now, it's time for Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Coward, along with Daniel Madelon. He is the president and CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. And our guest today on the show, a friend of my show, too, in the Morning Extra, and a man that's doing incredible work on the Megyn Kelly Network. His name is Phil Holloway. He is a lawyer here in town. And I'll start by asking, because when it's funny, Phil reached out to me and he was like, hey, man, you know, what can I expect out of tomorrow? And I said, it's a little bit different than what we do on the morning show, but the same kind of concept, very casual and conversation. How do y'all know one another?
Well, Daniel, you want to take it, or I'm happy to start? So look, so I've been practicing in the metro Atlanta area, almost 27 years now, and I do criminal law. And so, I started as a prosecutor, now I do defense work, and a lot of my clients need bail bonding companies, and it's been my experience that, they're not all the same. And so early on, I'm not just saying this because I'm on your show, I genuinely believe this, that a second chance is one of the they're just so much more responsive. My clients tend to like dealing with them, and so we've just developed a personal relationship just because my clients do business with them.
Sure.
And all the folks down there have always been very helpful and friendly. So yeah, we go back a long ways, not just with Daniel, but with all the folks down there.
Yeah, Daniel, I mean, that's a theme that I keep hearing from guests that come on the show, is that it all started with relationship through business, through a second chance, but has developed into more than that.
Yeah, no, and over, almost over 20 years, right? That's how, how long it's been. And look, these types of relationships are super valuable to me. So that's why you hear about it, right? Because that's been part of the culture of what we're doing at the Second Chance.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man. Mm-hmm. The great network of relationships that both of you have built. And Phil, though you're a lawyer here in town, a practicing lawyer, like I said, for 27 years, there's other things on the docket for you.
There truly are. And look, it's just like most people's careers evolve over time. I like to think of it like, for example, a professional football player. They go out on the field. They get the crap beat out of them for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And maybe at some point, before they're, while they're still young enough to enjoy it, maybe they want to go up to the broadcast booth and call the game from elsewhere while still maintaining their identity as a ball player.
Good example is Matt Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. Now he may be coming back.
He may be coming back. So, but that's another, but it's kind of in the same vein. He's been in the broadcast booth for a little while, but now he could potentially be going, and I expect that he will, become a member of the Falcons front office. Just another opportunity for him.
Yeah, and so now I've got a contract with MK Media. That's Megyn Kelly's media company that just started up. She just started it last year and began launching various shows, including the one that we launched together along with other co-hosts in August of 2025. We got some big changes coming up to our show. My show is called MK True Crime. We've got some big changes that I'll be able to talk about more in coming days very, very soon. But we're starting this week with a format changes. So I'm able to, replace maybe some of my law practice with work in the media. And so, after 40 years, it seems like the right thing to do.
It's funny because that's kind of what you're doing, Daniel, a little bit, expanding the brand of a second chance through media, this show, through podcasting, through social media. It is all spokes in a wheel, but kind of the same concept.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny when Phil was saying that, it literally
exactly
the
what
light went off in my head because I was like, oh my God, I'm in the same place kind of right now. So yeah, it's the evolution.
Yeah, it's big, and I see a lot of people doing it. It's because media is so important, and there's so many layers to it. There's so many things that you could talk about. Why don't you explain to folks maybe who haven't heard about MK True Crime what y'all do on there? Maybe give us some background, some of the stories that you've already covered.
All right, so MK True Crime is evolving into, I guess, not just a show, but it's evolving into a true crime network, and we do expect some growth to be announced in the very near future. Megyn Kelly is a lawyer. She's always enjoyed doing legal segments. She's had a show on her show, even when she was back with Fox News and other places, she would do segments called Kelly's Court. So what we would do is we would have practicing attorneys, and it was just a limited group of us that we come through, and like we rotate in. 3 at a time, but we're changing our format. Like I said, our show that'll drop this week is going to have a different format, so stay tuned for that. But we get into like all the true crime stories that the other folks who are in the true crime space, whether it's Court TV or Law and Crime or whoever, we don't directly, I don't think, compete with them. We talk about a lot of the same cases, but we do it with practicing criminal lawyers like myself, people who are in the trenches and have been doing this and trying the cases, for years and years and years. So we cover whatever true crime stuff is in the media, what's going on in the news, but sometimes we're taking a look, like we got into the John Benet Ramsey case recently. We expect there's going to be some movement on that, hopefully this year in 2026. And we look a little bit behind these cases. We interviewed Othram Labs, which is the DNA company that broke the Brian Kohberger case wide open, and we suspect they may have a role with John Benet as well. So we're doing all the things that the other folks in true crime do, but we're doing it in our own special way.
I love it. And Daniel, that's something that y'all deal with a lot at Second Chance. Obviously, crime. You have to deal with. It is a fascinating topic. People, that's why the show is going to do incredibly well and has already done incredibly well, will continue to do incredibly well. Why do you think people are so fascinated with crime?
That's a great question because it's something that's existed, for eternity.
Well, yeah,
and people are drawn
back to Cain and Abel.
Look at the TV show. Yeah, it's wild.
Never thought about that, but that's right. It's the first murder. Right there in the book of Genesis.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. That's why, so yes, it's been happening since the beginning of time. I think that's why people are so fascinated by it because, I don't know, for me, like the worst thing I remember, I was told that I stole a thimble from the store at Cracker Barrel when I was a child. That's my crime so far. I do speed up Georgia 400 once in a while, not often. Every now and then, probably not even usually, I wouldn't think, but once in a while. But
can you go ahead and tell us the make and model of your vehicle, including the tag number, just in case?
It is a Ferrari Testarossa.
For all of our Sandy Springs police friends listening.
There we go.
It's definitely a Ferrari Testarossa. Be on the lookout for it. That's right, and it is Georgia Bulldog Red. Be looking out for that. But it's just interesting because I don't have a background of crime, but when I hear about it, I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? Or my wife will be on, hey, did you see on whatever website that this ball player, this actor, this actress, they've done whatever it is. So and then it gets shared, right? And then the discussion happens and it turns into a snowball. Kind of like it's like John Benet Ramsey a little bit, Phil, because so many people start talking about the same thing, it becomes all-encompassing, and it goes from shows like this one to huge networks like Fox or MS Now, I guess it's called now, any of the networks, and then to your show too. Those stories are intriguing because nobody has ever. Well, I say nobody. Most people have not lived that.
Yeah, and I'm old enough to remember. In my lifetime, the first big sensational trial, of course, was O.J. Simpson.
Yes, sir. I remember where I was standing.
But remember, we didn't have social media. We didn't have the ability to all have this global conversation simultaneously about it, and we didn't have everybody becoming a subject matter expert all of a sudden. Social media has really driven this, and it takes on a life of its own. And I think that's a good thing because on balance, there's some bad things, I think, that come along with it. But on balance, it's good that people are more aware of what's going on in the court system.
Transparency.
Think about like the what's going on in Utah with the Charlie Kirk murder case, right? You've got a judge who might be seriously considering not having cameras in that courtroom, or at least not for all of it, and they've already had some things that were done in the dark. And so the public is, a lot of the public, myself included, are kind of feeling like that's kind of outrageous in this day and age that you're going to not show what's going on inside a courtroom.
Especially with the most Google searched event of 2025.
Yeah.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Indeed.
So if you want to make sure that courts, for lack of a better word, stay honest, and then open it up so that obviously you can't physically let everybody in there, but let the public see almost everything that goes on. There may be some things that when I have a trial and I have a sidebar conversation with the judge and the other side, the people that are even there, they can't hear that. So there are some things that everybody doesn't get to know, but it should be very, very minimum.
Yeah, I would think that's exactly right. We'll continue this conversation in the next segment because I want to jump into the justice system with policing, prosecution, your military service, my military service, how all that applies to building you into the person you are and the show that you host for the MK Network, for the Megyn Kelly Network, and the True Crime podcast that y'all are doing. And we will jump back into it with Phil Holloway. You can find him at Phil Holloway Esquire on X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll continue the conversation next here on Extra 106.3.
This is Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Madelon of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart. You're on Extra 106.3. Our guest, Phil Holloway of the Holloway Law Group, former prosecutor and police officer. He was a man that served in the United States Navy, as did I, so hand salute there. And then just a national legal analyst. You can hear him, and you've been on every network there is, right, Phil?
Well, there's so many. It's hard to say.
Well, but
I would say most of the big ones. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we love having you on the Morning Extra. Anytime there's something that happens locally or nationally, Phil's our go-to guy. We call him first to get an opinion, get an idea of what has happened. And that's the thing. Doing the things that you've done with the background that you have had to have shaped the way you look at the world, had to have shaped the way that you host the MK True Crime podcast as well. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? It's who you are and the perspective that you have.
Well, yeah, I think there's, all of the things that you just mentioned. I think every one of us and everyone listening to this show, we are all, as human beings, a product of the sum of all of our experiences and all the decisions that we've made in our lives. And if you think about it, trillions probably of decisions that I've made in the course of my life led me to this spot in the studio with you two guys doing this podcast right now. And so you can't really separate out, my experience in law enforcement, my experience as a prosecutor or military, because those things do, create who I am and how I see the world. But the thing about it is that there's no role, literally no role in a courtroom except for court reporter that I have never done. I mean,
that's interesting.
I've been a prosecutor. I've been obviously a defense lawyer. I've filled in as a substitute judge. I've worked court security as a deputy sheriff. I've testified as a witness. And so the only thing I guess maybe bailiff, but literally, I think that gives me the ability, I like to think about things from different perspectives, and to the extent that might be something that helps my audience understand the justice system a little bit better. I try to bring those experiences to bear on the discussion.
Well, you said something that's got my attention, and Daniel, you'll know the answer to this, but a layman like me does not, because you talked about being a court deputy. And then you mentioned bailiff. I don't know the difference in those two roles.
Well, so all right, let's talk about that, because when you have criminal courts, you're going to have a lot of people that have gone through a second chance. Bail bonders, they're free on bond, right? They're not in jail when their court case is called. But then some people, aren't able to post bond or don't have a bond or for whatever reason are in custody. And so you got to have deputy sheriffs. In Georgia, it's the deputy sheriffs because the sheriff runs the jail, and courts are sort of their within their lane of responsibility. So it's deputy sheriffs that transport prisoners to court and that sort of thing. So when I talk about court security deputies, it might be people that do prisoner transport. It might be the deputies that stand there to make sure that there is safety and security for all people present in the courtroom. But a bailiff is an officer of the court in Georgia, and it's different sometimes from court to court, even from, say, a municipal or city court to a county court. We call those the state courts, or even what we call the superior court, which handles the bigger, like, felony cases. Bailiffs are usually individuals. A lot of times it's retirees. Maybe it's a retired deputy sheriff or someone who's a retired law enforcement or a retired politician. They're officers of the court, and their job is to help with the administrative tasks that need to be taken care of in the courtroom. It's different from the clerk of court. They have administrative roles too, but maybe they're going to help the clerk of court because paperwork needs to be copied, some file needs to be taken somewhere, things like that just help the court conduct its day-to-day business.
See, those are the things that I think are fascinating. Because, Daniel, you've been in court. You knew the answer. You probably have worked directly with a lot of those folks. Just with being at a second chance and the bail bonding and then the monitoring side.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it touches all of that.
Yeah, sure. No, it's a fascinating journey. And I think that back to why True Crime podcasts do so well, because people have such limited experience in the courtroom, around the courtroom. Most people go and, they're once in a while they get selected for jury duty. Half the time it doesn't even happen.
Well, and half of them don't understand the process. And we educate. I mean, literally, we're not doing anything special other than just really educating them and giving them access to the resources. That's it. I mean, literally.
But that's the thing, though.
And getting it and letting them understand, you know what I'm saying? Because half these people don't understand what's going on.
I mean, for the most part, I don't, because I've never experienced it.
Right.
And
it can be a complicated process.
which is
why you call a lawyer like Phil.
Right, exactly. But that's why I'm glad that I'm glad to be able to ask these questions, because I've never had to encounter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's a good thing.
Like, I feel I'm pleading ignorant, and it's a good thing. For once in my whole life, not knowing is actually, at least in my view, a good thing. But Daniel, I know you're a big fan of Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan of hers for a really long time. She's a smart lady. I love how feisty she is. I love how she cuts through the BS. I love the fact that she is not afraid to tell you what she thinks.
Yeah.
And she does it with incredible intelligence behind it. It's not just, Yosemite Sam off the hip.
Right.
She knows what she's talking about.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
And I know you and I have followed her from network to network. Phil, now getting to know Megyn Kelly a little more, working with her on the MK Network and hosting the MK True Crime podcast, even introducing her on stage here in Atlanta.
Yeah, and so that was, we were talking about this some before the show, and I thought it would be neat to talk, because we had this thing here in the Atlanta area called the Fulton DA Fani Willis versus Donald Trump show going on for a couple of years.
That was that really small.
Yeah,
it was very small.
May not have heard about it.
Probably didn't get a lot of coverage.
Kind of obscure.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, so one of my co-hosts on MK True Crime is the lady who I like to think is the Erin Brockovich of that whole thing. She's a great attorney also in the metro Atlanta area, Ashley Merchant.
We've had the fortune of having her on this show.
She's Ashley and I are co-hosts in MK True Crime. And when Megyn Kelly did a live tour and she came to the Atlanta area in late November 2025, I guess early November, Ashley and I had the pleasure of being one of the introductory sort of acts. We got to come out on stage at the Gas South Arena and talk about what we're doing for a few minutes and talk about the MK Media and MK True Crime. And what I thought was funny was, when when Ashley when I walked out, I got a lot of applause. Those people, the politeness and a little bit. When Ashley walked out, it's like
hooting and hollering.
She got the rock star treatment. Not only because she's I'm just an old guy. She's a lovely lady who's just very charming and everybody likes her. So she got wild applause, I would say. And so, but we had fun talking about all this because one lawyer who is in a very small practice. Her husband is her law partner. Think about what she was able to do right here in Atlanta that has such monumental impact, not only on the direction of our country. It had something to do, no doubt, with the presidential election, and it's going to be something that's going to be prominent in overall history of our country moving forward. Our kids and grandkids will probably learn about this in history books, but lawyers will also be studying it in the legal history of our country. And so, we have like a front row seat to that, and I thought it was just fascinating. It's just a little footnote in the whole story, but yeah, that was an interesting time and a lot of fun, and we're glad to have Ashley with us.
Gosh, I tell you, seeing her perform the way she did, and then to be able to talk to her about it here on Justice Unfiltered was unreal because I and Daniel, all of us, we were able to ask her the questions like, what was going through your mind right then when Fani Willis was being very defiant, and she handled herself so well in the face of that defiance?
Well, Ashley handled herself perfectly. But Ms. Willis, on the other hand, in my opinion, was a disgrace to the profession of lawyering, and I don't hold her in high regard as a prosecutor either, for that matter. But I can look at just the way that she comported herself, and even most recently in her Senate testimony before the Georgia Senate Committee, where they were looking into this.
Unreal.
She literally has the dubious distinction of being booted off one of the biggest, probably the biggest case ever in Georgia history, perhaps in American history, for lack of a better word, I'll just say just misconduct, right? And so all the things that the Court of Appeals said that she did wrong, she was disqualified for, and she accepts no responsibility for that. And I just find that to be breathtaking.
It's unreal to see the way that everything happened. I think most people. It's one of those things that even Daniel, if let's say you disagreed with the point of view of Phil and of Ashley, you can't look at what happened and go, yep, that's the way I would have done it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if you agree with the woman.
Because as you know, I'm on all sides of this, right?
And
so I do play on all sides of this. And it's right. There are, look, everybody can draw their own conclusions here, right? Based on what you see, what you know. Obviously I tell everybody do your research, do your fact checking, because I'm a big fan of that. But yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, yes.
And the Second Chance had a role in that biggest trial in Georgia history, maybe in American history, to quote Phil.
We were right. I was right in the middle of it. There was another couple of colleagues of mine that were in the middle of that with me as well.
Those are some hefty bail bonds that some of those, and there was so many defendants, I forget how many, but they all had to post bond.
Yeah, we did majority or a bulk of them. But yeah, it was.
Are you at liberty to talk about who? I don't know the answer to that.
So it was a colleague of mine who posted Trump's bond, but I was actually involved with him on that transaction, so I was part of that deal. And then Giuliani was posted. Mayor Giuliani's bond was posted through a Second Chance. I actually walked him in myself. We also did Mark Meadows, I think Roman as well. David Schaefer.
Michael Roman was Ashley's client.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
So we did Roman because that was...
And this is where y'all's career and y'all's profession completely crossed paths? Because we started earlier talking about, hey, we just worked together. It's always been a good experience.
I will say, though, it was a combination of really, and this goes back to the relationships, right? This deal, on my side at least, was a combination of relationships with people who have known each other for a long time, and we trust each other, right? And that's how you get stuff like that done at that level, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand this. When talking about bail bonding, lawyers, we're prohibited by law from bonding people out. Like, if we're going to be the lawyer on the case, but like I could bond you out when you get arrested for speeding on 400, Tug, because you're my friend.
In my Ferrari, look for the Ferrari.
Yeah, but I couldn't represent you. But so people will call me or get in touch with me, Saturdays, middle of the night, whenever, saying that some loved one or somebody is maybe in jail, needs to get out, and I'm happy to help them any way that I can. But the person they really need right in that moment is a bail bondsman, and then the attorney can certainly help them when they get out, and they should have a good lawyer. But I think that Daniel and his colleagues they're right on the front lines of the very beginning of the justice process.
Yeah, it's unbelievable though how big something that both of you have connection to. My only connection is I've seen it. I've talked about it, discussed it on our morning show here on Extra, but
it was a seamless process for us. Only
but it doesn't
because
sound like it would be,
right? And no, at the beginning, I kind of was looking at it like, what are we about to walk into here? And there's so many landmines that potentially could go off here. But no, it was great, But then again, that goes back to how we do business, right? And how we move through the transaction, and. I don't know. So it worked out really well, though.
What did the folks that, obviously you named the folks that you worked with, what was their reaction to, because I bet they've never had to bond out of anything before.
Well, look, in the beginning of that, everything was chaos and, everybody.
What do you mean?
Well, there was so much media attention behind that whole entire case. So, obviously the bond process, the goal was to get these people in and out of there, get the stuff set up, and get the process moving in the right direction. And that, I think we were able to accomplish.
Did you have people following you around?
There were drones at the office flying in. There were helicopters, drones.
Holy cow.
Whatever.
Dude,
it was good. It was fun.
Nuts. That sounds like something made up. Phil, that sounds like something that you could. That if you were writing this, you probably wouldn't work that in because nobody would believe it.
I've not heard that about the drones, and I think that's just probably media that's trying to figure out where these people are this specific minute.
Yeah, there was
process.
a wild goose chase when they were looking for.
They don't stalk me that much. The closest I came was actually my co-counsel in this. We represented briefly the person who. Remember Bobby Christina Brown when she was found deceased in a bathtub in Roswell?
Yep.
Years ago, we briefly represented the individual who found her, and we had some media that was stalking us for a while. But that was before the age of drones, so I can only imagine what it would be like now.
What was the difference? Were they just calling your house? Were they just dropping by? Were they just calling the office? What does that look like? Because today it just seems like it's Yosemite Sam, Wild Wild West.
Yeah, you get ambushed when you walk out of the police department, when you're up there meeting with detectives. All of a sudden there's a scrum of media. Calling the office, showing up at the office. I haven't had anyone show up at my home yet. I don't want to give anybody any ideas. But no, and that's fine. I get it because I handle routine cases, but I handle sometimes that are have some media interest or somewhat high profile, and so. I always make it a point, if you just ignore the media, I think that's a bad plan. If you have a case there's some media interest, you got to talk to the media, but you got to do it in the right way. And if there's any lawyers out there listening to this, if you agree with what I just said, before you try to, you ought to have some media training, right? Because you need to understand where the media is coming from, and you need to understand that you can use them as a tool, because if you just give them a 10-second comment, even if you don't answer their question, they're going to play your comment on the news. And so you get to get your message out there. It's not just necessarily about answering media questions.
Have they ever stalked you down at dinner?
No, I don't think
That's good
no,
news.
not yet.
Daniel,
No.
you, anybody probably, like, you're walking out of dinner and they're like,
There's that.
where's the mayor?
But like I said,
I try to be low key.
if you talk to them and you don't, if you don't blow them off, then they're not going to need to find you at dinner.
I'm glad you brought up media training. Obviously, you work in media just as much as you work in the legal system. Is that something that you can help people get? Is that something you help people do, or have ever thought about helping people do?
Well, I've never thought about it. I suppose I can help, but I went through some formal media training. My first paid role in this was I was a legal analyst for CNN back 2015, 14-15 time frame. And, I went to Washington, D.C. I had some formal media training about, not just like the logistics, like how to powder your face if you need to in an emergency, and how to be camera ready and things of that nature. There are people who specialize in media training, though, who have more experience on the producer and reporter journalist side that are really good resources if anybody wants formal media training. If you have any role in whether it's the justice system or anything else that you think you're not gonna, you might need it, it's a good thing to do, because if you don't know, for example, when you're talking to a journalist, if you don't know to get an agreement that what you're saying is off the record before you talk about it, then it's on the record. Okay, there's little things like that people really need to know about.
I love the fact that you said when you say something to the media, they're going to run with it, which you can use to your advantage. I've seen really smart people, lawyers, politicians doing that very thing. You see them, you're like, I know what you just did there. Is that something? Do you think most people realize that? Do you think that's or is that just because of what we do?
I think people who are really good at it do it in a way that most people wouldn't notice it. But if you have training, you see what they did. And I think what you're talking about is like, so the media says, what can you tell us about your defense? I'm obviously not going to disclose to you on the courthouse steps what my defense is going to be.
Right.
And if I don't know what to say, I can say, all right, folks, excuse me just a minute. I'm going to go to the restroom. I'll be right back. And you go to the restroom and get your thoughts together,
right.
maybe. And then what you come out is you find like 15 seconds of what you want to say. We look forward to representing our client in this case. We believe that what you've heard so far is not a complete picture. There's a lot more that you need to understand. Our client is innocent, and we're going to defend him vigorously. Something like that. And so you haven't disclosed your defense, but you've given them something to show on the evening news.
Absolutely. And it is so good because no press is bad press. You know what I mean? If you're not getting any press, that's terrible. And if you're getting, press that is bad, doesn't matter. Your name's still out there. A lot of people think that getting a bad soundbite is bad for you. I don't know that I agree with that. Can it derail some things? Yes. But does it put you in the spotlight, especially if you're a practicing lawyer, to have that sort of exposure? You can't pay for that.
Well, another thing, a big mistake I see people make is they try to ad-lib on like live TV or live radio. That's just no place for making it up on the spot. You need to have your message crafted, and you need to rehearse it in your mind and have like 3 or 4 answers that are 20 to 40 seconds long that you can give to any question. So when Tug asks me a question that either I don't know enough about or I don't want to answer, I can say, Tug, that's a great point. I think what really folks need to stay focused on, and then I launch into
whatever it is you want to say.
Then I launch into my message that I want to get out there. I need to control it, not the interviewer.
Oh, I love it.
There we go.
See, and I know because I face that, Daniel, a lot.
Yeah,
like
I get it. Yeah,
I'll ask a pointed question to to a politician, and they'll hit me with what Phil just did. Like he did it so expertly, and I hear it, and I'm like, no. Knew they were going to do that. Yeah. You're not going to get what you want.
You're not. No, you're definitely not going to get it.
Not going to
get it. You get what you get, and you're going to like it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. We when we come back, let's focus on that being a legal analyst, because can I say, or should I say, how would you say, moving more to being in the media versus being a lawyer a little bit?
Yep, happy to talk about that.
Yeah, so
and
the transition process, what that looks like for Phil Holloway, who is the host of MK True Crime on the Megyn Kelly Network, joining us here today on Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Madelon, the CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart. This is Extra 106.3.
Now back to Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3 with Daniel Madelon, CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. Our guest, Phil Holloway, Holloway Law Group. You can find him at Phil Holloway Esquire on social media. Nowadays, Phil, I know you've been practicing law for a really long time, but you're changing your direction a little bit. We got into it a little bit earlier with athletes that go to the broadcast booth, and then maybe they find themselves in the front office of an organization, and let's say they stay there for a few years, super successful. I want to do something different, going back to the broadcast booth. You're not an athlete necessarily, but you're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy, because when I go on my show or your show, anybody else's show, and we're going to talk about legal issues, as a legal analyst, I have to understand, I'm not talking to a judge. I'm not talking to a class of law school students or even my lawyer buddies at lunch. I'm talking to people who most likely and almost are, they're not lawyers. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but recently I heard someone discussing the legal issues that pertain to, remember the CEO murder up in New York?
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
All right, so,
from United Healthcare.
Well, there's issues involving search and seizure from when the police encountered the defendant and whether or not certain evidence is admissible and things like that. And so you've got this whole legal Fourth Amendment analysis full of case law and all kinds of stuff that we lawyers look to as our framework for the analysis. But I don't have time in a 1 or 2 minute segment on Fox News or anywhere else to go through all that, and you don't want to hear it. You would tune out if I started quoting case law and all this stuff.
It sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher a little bit.
But so I think inexperienced folks, and by that I mean folks who don't have good media training, they'll go out and they'll just start talking that way. What I try to do is I try to remember that I'm speaking mostly to lay people, and I have a limited period of time. The Fourth Amendment takes up weeks and weeks and weeks of a law school class in criminal procedure, and I might have 3 opportunities to give a 25-second answer in this interview, and I'm not going to get it all in, right? So you have to basically distill it down to what laypersons can digest, right? And so that's sort of the big challenge. And honestly, it does take a little practice. It's not something. I remember the first time I went on national TV. It was on Fox Business Channel, and my God, did I bomb it? It was so bad.
I did on Newsmax.
So bad. God, it was just terrible. And I've still got it somewhere. It's on YouTube, but I've got it marked private so anybody can see it.
I don't want anybody to see this.
No, it's just, but it's just one of those things like anything else. It comes with practice, and I'm not saying that I'm excellent at it or better than anybody else. But
well, I'll say that for you.
It's just a common mistake that I see sometimes when lawyers go on and try to talk to the public about complex legal matters. They just get too much inside baseball, and that's not what the folks want to hear.
But then there is that worry of the oversimplification, right? Because I know the way I would talk about it is definitely not the way you would talk about it, but we're both trying to drive to the same points.
Yeah. And Ashley, speaking of Ashley Merchant, she and I were having this discussion recently about something that's like, when lawyers talk to each other, we have our own language. Like, we can talk in shorthand. When we are on our show and we're talking about legal issues, and all the voices, all the co-hosts that you hear, we're all lawyers. We have to remember to not break into the legalese. We need to understand we can't revert to our lawyer language. We have to speak in the layperson language. And so that's a big piece of it as well. I think that the true crime listeners, people who seek out and like this kind of content, they might be a lot more, let's just say, aware, because a lot of people love true crime, and they will literally spend hours and hours each day digesting this stuff. So they pick things up. So they may not be completely unversed in the subject matter, but we still have to remember that we're mostly speaking to members of the public who aren't lawyers.
Yeah, the most I get is shows on CBS. Was that not NCIS, but something like that? You know what I mean? That's where I pick up the terminology. Otherwise, I wouldn't know whatsoever. I wouldn't even have one term that I could throw out to
Trial watchers are the greatest, though. I love talking to trial watchers. I love interacting with people who
like the people that watch them on YouTube as they stream live.
Yeah, and like we're going to go out to there's Crime Con. It's like the crime convention.
Oh wow!
Where is this at?
This year it's going to be in Vegas. We'll be out there later this spring. And so
Crime Con.
Anything
from,
that ends with con
I need to look into
scares me to begin with.
Look, it's a convention of true crime enthusiasts, and it's a lot of fun. I love interacting with our audience.
I might have to take a trip out there.
You should totally go. Yeah, we'll be there. You should totally go.
This is so much fun. But I do think, TV shows are where people pick up what you do, Daniel, at a Second Chance Bail Bonds and Second Chance Monitoring. That's where they pick it up, and Phil, you too. That's where they learn about what you do, and most often it ain't right. Right, because it's not meant to be.
Right.
It's meant to entertain.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I do believe you could probably, like the stories you tell on this show, maybe there's one day you could publish a book about all the craziness that you've seen.
We've collected. There's a binder that exists of the real insane stuff.
Exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, there's a reason we had Dog the Bounty Hunter on.
That's right.
For him to tell the crazy stories and the people that you have to hire to go out.
Absolutely.
Because that's real. Sometimes you have to go find somebody.
Yeah. Every day. I mean, it's every day.
Dude, that is unreal to most people.
Daniel, maybe we should have you on MK True Crime in the new year in our new format, which by the way, it's going to be we're going to have some permanent co-hosts that instead of the larger group, and there's only going to be two of us at a time. But speaking to our audience about what bounty hunters go through and the whole bail recovery process seems like something that would be fascinating.
And what's a little bit different about our situation is we have an in-house setup, which is so investigators that are solely for a second chance, right? So in-house, and then we also blend in the independent contractors as well. when we get too far away from home.
Goodness gracious! But I think Phil's exactly right. Just those stories alone.
Oh, it's every day because it's like it never stops, right? Mm-hmm. So it's 24/7.
Kind of like you, man. Phil never stops. As a lawyer,
I try. I try as I might to slow down and stop, particularly over the holidays. But hey, the people who need people like me and Daniel, their needs don't respect holiday hours or nights or weekends or anything like that.
You got that right.
You can find the MK True Crime podcast on all the podcast platforms as well as on SiriusXM on Megan Kelly's channel. Do you know off the top of your head what channel number that is on XM?
111.
111.
And I look forward to coming on there and checking it out.
Dude, this is going to be so good.
I'll talk to my producers about that. We'd like to talk about bail recovery.
Dude, I'm telling you, and maybe get Dog to come with you like when we had him on the show. Dude, it was like nothing. Again, as a layman, it was like nothing I'd ever heard. My jaw was just on the table when he was telling the stories of recovering these people and what goes into it.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. Phil Holloway, thank you, man. It's always good to see you. Can't wait to have you back on the Morning Extra again, and appreciate you coming in for Justice Unfiltered.
Well, this is a lot of fun. You guys are both personal friends of mine, and I'm always happy to talk to you about crime, which is my life.
That's right.
Yes,
absolutely.
We appreciate you, and I appreciate everything.
There
for
you
sure.
go.
Thank you
is
for coming on.
Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3. Make it a great day.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.